Just look at me and just tell me your stories. Start off with like, just so that we have, tell, because you're gonna want to introduce who you are.
Yeah, that was my first. That's my first step. Why I'm doing this.
Okay. Cool. So.
Okay, is this thing on?
Yeah, we're going.
We're going good. Okay.
All right, we're rolling.
Okay, ready? Okay. Oh shoot, this is the hard part. I'll start in a second here. My name is Michael Breitzman. I was born in 1952, and the reason that I'm making this presentation for a possible movie is I've literally had over 1,000 people tell me that I should make a movie of my many experiences. I've experienced many life-threatening experiences, and I feel like this movie in particular could appeal to everybody, actually throughout the world, every creed, color. As you will see in this presentation, I have dealt with people of all different races and religions and backgrounds, and I've traveled essentially in the United States. I've been in 45 of the 50 states. I've been in the Philippines and Honduras and other places, and I'd like to share these experiences. Also, most of Americans have driven taxi cabs, worked in restaurants, worked in airlines. I've had a lot of jobs. People like baseball, they like travel, they like railroads. And with all these interests, I think people would be more than happy to come back and see this movie like 2 or 3 times if it does happen. But what I would like to accomplish actually in this movie is I'd like to make the world, especially the United States, have a sense of humor and be able to laugh, to be able to look back on their lives and be able to reflect upon their own experiences. And I think this movie would be a key to that. It would bring a lot of happiness to people. And I think it'd be the talk of the town. And at this point, I would just like to welcome whoever views this and tell you to sit back, kick back, relax, laugh, have a good time. And I guess I would call this presentation, This Could Only Happen to You. My life actually began with my parents, of course, and my dad, one night, he was having a nightmare, and my dad thought the house was on fire, and he took a dive through a plate glass window. And I remember being at the hospital, waiting for hours when my dad was being sewed back together. And I remember the little Milwaukee Road engines going by, and I guess that was my first love of railroading. Second event really was kind of my sister Denise. She drank a bottle of cherry cola, and it was a cough syrup in those days. And I remember that I had a sense of humor, and I kept telling everybody, I want a nickel, I want a nickel. And I was getting dimes, dollars, and coins. And my grandfather said, enough's enough. And I kept saying, I want a nickel. But I wasn't asking for a nickel. I was asking for one of them nickel wafers. So we finally cleared that up. I guess my love of nature came from my Uncle Frank. My Uncle Frank was a great man, and I used to collect butterflies. And my grandmother had these mason jars, and I remember I used to get the caterpillars from the monarchs, put a little milkweed in there, and I had about probably 50 monarchs. Well, 50 caterpillars that turned into monarchs, and I left them on the front porch of my grandmother's house, and they grew into the caterpillars, grew into the chrysalis eventually, and then they turned into butterflies. One Sunday morning, my grandfather went out there and released all these butterflies. They're all these monarch butterflies, and they flew away. And I guess I didn't know in those days about changing wildlife in the United States. And anyway, I was kind of mad at my grandfather. I said, well, how come you let all them monarchs fly away? I was pretty upset about it. And I realized after a while, hey, maybe that was the best thing that could happen. What am I going to do with those butterflies? And another time by the lake, there used to be, in Wisconsin, there used to be a whole bunch of fireflies. Well, I got tons of fireflies, and I had them in these jars. And one of my relatives opened up all the jars early one evening when we were all asleep, and the house was pretty much lit up with the fireflies. And then my Uncle Frank, he loved nature, and of course, and he had these potato bugs. And these little potato bugs were on his plants, and we had to pull them off one by one. I said, why don't you just spray, you know? And I guess, again, I didn't understand the principle he was trying to teach me, to be, respectful with the nature. Taking a deep breath here, but hang on for a minute. Okay. All right. I know America's in love with baseball, and one of my first jobs I ever had was selling hot dogs and Cokes at the Big A in Anaheim, California. One time it was a hot summer day, and I had a tray of Cokes, and they had like a cellophane on top of the ice cold Cokes. And anyway, I was running about the 3rd story up, and I almost went over the railing. I didn't, but all my Cokes bombed everybody down below, and everybody got plastered with ice and Cokes. And needless to say, it was not a good experience for earning money. I kind of lost some money for the day. And then another one of my, you know, a lot of Americans are driven. I worked for a company called United Couriers. And United Couriers, I don't know, you know, famous managers, or, you know, good managers, I should say, are nice. And Norm Graham was a particularly good manager, and there's not many maybe in the world of management, but he was good. But one day, they had a guy named Dave, and Dave Kinnaman brought in some brownies. Well, Norm, he I guess had a sweet tooth, and he decided to take the time to eat 3/4 of these brownies. And then Norm was saying he's feeling a little bit weird. And I said, well, Norm, you might, because this came from Dave. He goes, never mind, take me home. Here this Dave guy had put in so much hash and drugs from all over the world probably in these brownies. So Norm was kind of buzzed out and spaced out, and I had to take him home so I didn't get a DUI. I had to take a break, man. I just like. And why is that United Couriers? I was a little bit careless in my driving, and one day I decided I'd take a trail duster down some railroad tracks and played chicken with another employee, and we just kind of passed on this little road by the office. Well, my manager, Norm Graham, gets his phone call saying that somebody's driving kind of erratic, and he tells me, well, they're not calling for their health now, are they? And I said, no, I guess not. I said, yeah, I was driving over. He says, that's not doing too good for my vehicles. And so I said, okay, Norm, I won't do that anymore, promise. And he was, like I say, he was a cool manager. And then one time I trained this girl, I was a trainer, and I trained this girl in a car. She calls me up, her first day, you know, on her own, and she calls me up from this bank. She said, oh, I had an accident in my fire. And I said, I don't know, where you at? And I said, I better go out and check this out. So I went out on my job and checked it out. Sure enough, she was driving about 40 miles an hour in a parking lot of a bank and totaled out some lady's Lincoln Continental, plus damaged the vehicle she was in pretty bad. And I said, you better start looking for another job, lady. I said, sorry, but that's just the way it goes. Another time, on Friday nights, we were supposed to get these specials at United Couriers. Banks would call us because there was a processing, and sometimes they didn't get their work done on time on especially Friday nights. So they paid a lot of money to have these checks specially picked up, make a deadline like around 10 o'clock on around LA in different areas. And there was like 4 of us, and I guess we were playing a little poker or whatever. And anyway, the guy started drinking. I don't drink, but these other guys drank, and they were all drunk, and the phone was ringing off the hook. So I was the only one that could drive, and I had to fake about 5 different places I had to go to that night, trying to slide into LA, Hollywood, and different data centers, and throwing the banks on the counter, throwing half-fake signatures. Drive like a maniac, so I went all over LA and North Hollywood, and anyway, we pulled it off. And because if you didn't get these checks in time in those days, the company or the banks would have to pay a hefty fine on the interest alone. So it was like very important, and especially since they're paying a lot of money, they expected us to get those things delivered before the cutoff times, and that was quite a challenge. And another time I was driving with United Couriers, I was driving an old Plymouth Duster, and I went to LA, and I was coming back, and I was at Euclid and the 5 freeway, and my car started overheating. As a matter of fact, it just died alongside the freeway. So I parked it on the shoulder, and shortly after, a highway patrolman came by and said, oh yeah, you're right here. I said, yeah, can you give me a ride to my office? I'm going to leave my car. Oh, you said it should be fine on the shoulder. So I said, okay, that's cool. And so later on, I went to LA again from my office in Anaheim. I was coming back, and I said, how come we got this massive traffic jam? I couldn't believe it. I said, what in the world's going on? And I said, wait a minute. I remember parking a car about Euclid earlier in the day, and I said, I don't think so. But sure enough, it was some dude was driving down the shoulder about 65 miles an hour, and he realized that this Plymouth Duster was not moving. And by the time I hadn't gotten up to there, they had the jaws of life trying to free up from his mangled wreck in that Plymouth Duster. So my boss is kind of happy. He got to write that car off, and it was going to be totaled anyway. So he made some hefty bread for the company on that one, and that's just the way things go. Oh, then one day I got a trip, and I got to do a special. I got to go out to Brawley, California. And I must have been awful tired or crazy or both. I was driving down this road. I thought it was a 4-lane freeway, but actually it really was a 2-lane highway. I was past about 6 cars, and I noticed there's a whole flock of cars kind of going to the right side of the road, flashing honking their horns, flashing their lights, and I couldn't understand all the excitement until I realized I was on a 2-lane road, and we didn't get hit. Luckily, the shoulder was wide enough we didn't all get in a head-on collision. And then another time, I was going to LA late at night, and it was pouring down rain. And I was at Valley View and I-5 freeway. And I was in the fast lane going 70, 75, just thinking about, I don't know, whatever. And all of a sudden, my car hydroplaned. The first thing I know, I'm in the slow lane going 65, and I see this lady coming at me and said, "We're dying. We're in a head-on." So I said, I veered, and I turned to I just missed I jumped the curb, missed the lamppost, jumped in these oleander hedges, and it took me about half an hour just to get out of my car. My trail duster was hanging halfway in the freeway facing the wrong way. So I got a lot of looky-loos looking, look at that jerk that's facing the wrong way, and they're laughing at me. High patrolman comes finally, and I sitting there and I'm talking with him, and they towed my car, and I dropped my car, and I said, "You can go now." And I was about ready to walk out to my car and just go on my route. High patrolman says, "I got to tell you one more thing, son." Oh, great. Now here it is. What are you going to do? Write me a ticket for reckless driving? What are you going to do? He goes, I got to read you your rights. I said, "Oh, my rights?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I'm going to make a suggestion, but I have to tell you something. You could follow me to the Santa Fe Highway Springs Highway Patrol and fill out an action report, but I suggest you don't do that. You might not want to tell your boss exactly what you did." And he says, "I think those bushes will grow back in." I said, "I think they will too." And I got back into my car and I said, "I'll drive safe, by the way," and that was good. And then another time I had a trail duster when I was over in Santa Ana, California, and I went into In-N-Out Hamburgers, and I was in the drive-thru, and there's a brand new police car right in front of me. First day, apparently these Santa Ana policemen just got the car, and they're also having burgers in front of me. Well, I wasn't paying attention, and I rolled into a brand new squad car, and I remember seeing their necks jerk, and I'm thinking, uh-oh. And I'm thinking, oh, whiplash, and I'm in big trouble. And so I get out, I said, "Look, I'm sorry. And they said, "I don't think there's any damage." But then they come, "Oh, I better get out and check to make sure." And I'm going, and he said, "Hey, you better be more careful. It's the first time we've had this squad car out here, and I think you put a little dent in it, but we're going to let it go this time." And oh, man, that was embarrassing. Okay, what else? I got to take a little breather here just to make sure I didn't miss anything. I know you.
Water there on the table.
Oh, is there? I think I'm getting like a headache, probably from the lights. Hang on. Look at that. Oh, shoot. Hang on here a minute. You can stop it for a second. I think I got all that Valley View rain, yeah. All right, that's enough of that one. Okay, when you're ready, let me know. I can't think fast. As I get warmed up, I'm gonna laugh more. It's just like, it's hard to start.
That's good.
Don't worry, I'll be able to tie this together. They're gonna. Plus, I kind of repeat too much. I'm gonna try to slow down a little bit, but it's hard to think, and I'm not paying attention to what you're doing. I don't know hopefully that looks good, but.
Are you looking at me or into the camera?
I don't know. I don't know which I'm doing. Why?
Whatever you're more comfortable with. Either one will work.
I'm just kind of looking that direction. I'm looking that direction, but I haven't even seen you.
Okay, perfect.
I don't even know you. Honestly, I didn't even know you were sitting like that until just now.
Oh, I just moved.
Yeah, okay, but I'm just like looking at the camera talking, and it's like I'm like thinking what I'm going to say, and I have no idea what the camera's doing. I don't know if you're moving it, focusing it, or. Okay.
When you're ready, I'm rolling.
Okay, 1 minute. And then one day, with the United Couriers, I got a job with Green Flag Airport Shuttle. I drove to the various airports in LA. And one day, I drove a trip out to Ontario Airport, and I was supposed to head back to LAX, but I like taking plane pictures, so I was goofing around Ontario. And I said, oh, I better go to LA. My passenger's going to come into LAX later. And I got kind of excited. I got a radio call, and right when he called me, I was entering the freeway, so I guess because I was so excited about it, my passenger came in a little early in LA, and I wasn't even anywhere near LA. I jumped the curb, fishtailed through some ice, I jumped another curb, bounced down onto the freeway, and this is a propane vehicle, so I don't think I did too good for the propane tanks underneath the vehicle. And I'm flying, and I'm getting a call. They used to call me, instead of Mike, they used to call me Dave, and Dave, your passenger came in early. And I said, I know, and I'm looking for him, I can't find him. And it was probably about an hour and a half later that I finally found this dude, and I said, you know, I've been driving all over LA. At least it was a Friday night, and I knew there'd be traffic over there. So I told him, hey, I finally found him, you know. I said, everything's cool. So Green Flag, another morning, I was picking up these passengers, and we were on the 405 freeway heading to LAX, and I got them real early in the morning, but there was this massive traffic jam, and I couldn't figure, wow, why would there be so much traffic? And I see flames and fires off in the distance, but I don't know what's going on. But I said, hey, we got a burning vehicle. Well, as I was getting up to the area, I realized one thing. It was another Green Flag Airport Shuttle in the same kind of propane van. And by the time we got there, all there was is the frame of the vehicle left. The whole thing had just literally melted to the ground, and all the looky-loos, and that's why we had all the traffic as they're putting out the last of the fire. So I told my friend, hey, I don't know what's going on, but you know, sorry you missed your flight today, and I guess the company can resolve that. Another time I went to LA, and they said, you're going to have to charge the guy a fare again. You know, and I said, well, I don't know, I feel uncomfortable. He said, well, he didn't call. He changed his flight and he forgot to call us, so we're going to have to charge him because he had to prepay the fares, and he already paid for a round trip. So I'm talking with a guy, and I'm on my little mic, you know, I'm holding it up, and the guy gets kind of mad, and he ripped my mic out of my hand, ripped it right out of my van, and walked off of my microphone. So I got on the phone, I called my office, and they said, okay, and I called the police. And they came out there to get my mic cord back, and he ripped off. The poor guy's all strung up with the police in the airport, and it was quite a wild scene. Okay, I'm almost there. I think that's it. Okay. Okay. You ready? Let me know. And then one of my friends got me a job at Trico Investment in Boynton Park, California. We used to have to try to clean buildings, and a lot of companies went out. It was like a warehouse of renting out to different companies. We used to have to clean up when they went out of business. Sometimes they left all their stuff, throw everything away or whatever like that. And one day I was walking, and I guess it was on a false ceiling, and we were carrying these heavy cans of paint. The supervisor came up, our boss actually came up to it and said, you boys want to fall and die, you're going to fall through the next office down below. You're walking on the ceiling. See these beams? You got to walk on the beams. I said, well, I didn't know. And so anyway, we started walking on the beams, and we were still carrying these heavy paints to get rid of them and everything. And I slipped off the beam with these paints, and sure enough, he wasn't kidding. I put my foot through an office down below. I went all the way through, but kind of hung onto the beam, and no harm, no foul. But I'm sure wondering how my friend and I didn't fall through carrying all that weight, didn't fall through the scene in the first place. But oh man, all right, get that far. I'm getting close to done already. Just that 1 minute.
You can slow down a little.
I got it. Okay, I got that. Oh, okay. Where am I at? Oh, okay. Do the Far West Cavs. This is going to be the fun part. I finally, with my wife, we moved up to, these glasses away. We moved up to Seattle, and while I was in Seattle, I got a job with a company called Far West Cabs. and I was driving a taxi cab. And I remember my first day on the job very distinctly. I was very nervous. And I was driving around SeaTac Airport, and I guess I crossed a couple double yellow lines, made a bunch of illegal U-turns, and I wasn't aware that a police officer was following me around the airport. I guess I was like super speeding. I was really nervous. I was looking for an address around the airport, and I made a U-turn. I guess I didn't stop at a stop sign, but anyway, I come around, and I was almost where I wanted to be, and I see these red lights flashing on me. And sure enough, then the cop wanted to talk to me, and I rolled down my window, and he goes, "What is wrong with you?" I said, "Nothing." He says, and I got a little real belligerent, and he said, "Well, we're looking for a cab. We're telling you broken." I said, "That wasn't me. You must have been following some other cabs." I said, "I don't remember making no illegal U-turn and speeding around the airport and driving like a maniac." I said, "You got the wrong dude, brother." And the cop said, "No, I got you, and you're in trouble." I go, "No, I can't be in trouble." I said, "I didn't do the things you're telling me." So he says, "Wait a minute." I said, "Okay, that's cool." I said, "Hey, I got a temporary Washington State license. I just moved in California. I got a temporary cab permit because it's my first day on the job." So I said, "I don't know what's going to happen here." And I was like getting kind of rate. So he went and he got another officer. Another guy come up here with a badge. I go, "Oh man, now who's this dude, man?" Different kind of badge than the policeman. He goes, "I'm with King County." And I go, "Oh great, you gonna throw me in the county jail or what? Who's this dude, man?" He said, "I see you got a temporary cab permit." And I go, "Yeah, I got the rules. I follow the rules as a cab driver, of course, you know." I said, and he says, "Well, the cops can write up for reckless driving." I said, "Good, you can have the cab." And I quit. I said, "You can impound my cab. Can I just walk off and let this call it even?" And the cop, he says, "No, let me talk to the cop." He says, "You're really nervous." And I said, "Yeah, you would be too if you're a cab driver. You know, I've heard incidences." So anyway, he said, "Okay, where are you trying to go?" And I said, "Galveston Air Freight." So he finally said, "All right, you know, dude, calm down. Don't break the line anymore. We're going to let you go this time, but be careful." I said, "Okay, thank you." I enjoyed cab driving, but cab driving was commission. And I remember one day I was out there in way out there by Bellevue, and the guy had a flight at SeaTac Airport, and he said, "I'll pay you good, but I got to make my flight." And he only had a little over half an hour. That's quite a jump. If anybody knows Northwest up there. So I'm driving down the road, and I get in this traffic, I was getting an accident. I swerved, and I drove down a sidewalk. It was a 25-mile-an-hour zone. I was doing about 45 or 50, swerving in the car, honking my horn, ripped back onto the freeway again, peeled into the airport, and told the guy, "Get out, man, run. I think you got 30 seconds pretty much to make your flight." The guy said, "Hey, man, I don't care anymore. I don't ever want to." I said, "Next time, just miss my flight." He said, "You scared the bejeepers out of me." And I said, "Well, you know, money talk." I said, "Hey, I got you there, you know, safely, somehow." You know, in the cab driving, of course, you know, anybody's been a hack driver, you got a guy sitting behind you clicking a 38, and I guess there's no bullets, fortunately, in there, but it's click, 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 and I know it's like a 38 special of some kind. And I know he just told me he got out of Walla Walla Penitentiary like a couple days before that. I'm thinking, what's the motive here? So we're driving, and we're way out in the sticks, and we're driving down a dirt road. And I was like getting a little nervous. I mean, I didn't know what to think. So I finally said, "Look, I'm not going any farther." He says, farther. And I said, "Get out." He says, "You know what? I'm going to have to kill you and take your cab." I said, "Over my dead body you are." And I proceeded to get a crowbar that I had on the side of my seat in my cab, and I was about ready to whack him, and he's kind of like jammed on the brakes, and he almost fell out of it. Well, he finally fell out of my cab, kind of, and I ducked, and I thought for sure, I said, "Forget the fare, I don't care, man, I'm out of here. I'm still living," and I thought for sure he was going to shoot me, but anyway, I got out of that one. Another time, you know, you pick up fares on the streets, and it's kind of scary, you know, and I picked up this one black gentleman, and I didn't realize, but he had a bottle of cheap Thunderbird wine. And he guzzled the whole bottle of wine down. And he was like kind of spacing out on me. And I said, "Oh," and he's taking me to a nice area, you know, a predominantly black area where white guys aren't really that invited. Takes me down a dead-end street, and I stop to collect the fare from the guy. And all his brothers are rocking my cab. And I'm boxed in there, and I'm thinking, what's going on? He said, don't worry, they're going to take care of you. I said, yeah, I bet they are. And I was very fortunate. They did take care of me, not the way that I thought, but they did give me the money that he had on his meter, and they were actually pretty cool. And one of the things I learned as a cab driver, however, is that, you know, a lot of narcotic officers work undercover. And I said, look, you'd see people running drug and doing illegal things. I said, I don't know nothing. I don't see nothing. Just give me the money up front. And if anybody comes over and does anything to me, walks towards me, I'm leaving. Your money and all, and you'll never see me again. So tell your bros to stay on the other side of the street, to all of them. And so I think that was a good thing. And then one day, you know, I was in Far West Cab, and this guy said, I'm an airline employee. And he said, I got fired today. He said, when I got fired, I took a great big cherry picker and I blocked one of the business intersections in the Seattle area. He said, I put it diagonally across the street, took the keys out and left. And I said, sir, I don't believe you. I said, look, I'll pay for the fare. Can we go back in that area where you said you left this vehicle a little while ago? I want to see for myself, because I said, I think you're jiving me. He goes, no, I'm not jiving. He said, I work for Surveyor. And I said, okay, fine. So we start proceeding, and I turned around, and I went over in the direction where, and I'd never seen such a traffic jam in all my life. And I seen this great big truck from a distance. I said, sir, I believe you. I said, I think we better get out of here. And I said, look at all the policemen, and they don't know what to do. They can't even figure out how to tow the thing out of the intersection. You got all four directions, wall-to-wall cars honking. And, it was a mess. I said, good for you, sir. Wait to leave the job. Oh, my goodness. And then another time, I came down a long dirt driveway, and I hear a domestic dispute. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready to throw the cab in reverse and say, forget this, because I hear a husband and girl and a wife yelling, get out of here. So I come driving up there, and boom, there comes the suitcase right off the hood of the car. Get her the H out of here. I said, okay, sir, I'm going to get her out of here. I get her in there, and we're driving down the road, and she's kind of like a little bit stoned and weird. I said, what did you do to tick this guy off? She said, well, I was laying on his bed, and I picked up his 357 Magnum, and I started shooting a few holes in the ceiling of his bedroom. I said, lady, I'd throw you out too. Good for him. And so anyway, I pulled her in. She says, I'm going to some bar in Seattle. So I pulled her in the bar, and she falls out of my cab, literally opens the door and falls out because she's so messed up. And the guys in the bar come out on the stretcher and carried her in the stretcher and said, I hope I never see you again. You know, I was gone. Oh, and then, you know, there's rules when you're driving a taxi cab. One day, the sun was kind of my eyes, and I was out there in Tukwila, Washington. And anyway, I rolled into this guy's car with my cab. I hit him pretty hard. I knocked his bumper right off his car. It just kind of fell on the ground. Here, sir, here's a business card. I'm on a good trip. I got to go, man. I said, just call the office. They'll know what to do. And I split. About a week later, I get this call from my boss and a supervisor in this little trailer by the airport. He said, hey, come on, I think you got in a wreck. He said, I think you're the last cab driver I ever talked to already that didn't get in the wreck, but I believe you're the one. You got to be. I said, oh, yeah, I remember. I gave a guy, yeah, he said his neck was bothering him the first day you got in a wreck. And we've been paying all this medical bills, and we didn't even know who you are and who you work for. I said, well, I'm sorry. He said, you can't do that. And he said, well, you've been working here for a little while. We're not going to fire you this time. But you're supposed to have a supervisor come out and take pictures and see. Another time I was out there in Enumclaw, Washington, you know, out by Mount Rainier. And I was looking for an old folks retirement home. And it was really foggy. And this is no joke. It was so foggy I could not see. And it was a new development. And so I saw what I thought was a road. And it was dirt. And I said, oh, this must be a new dirt driveway into this retirement home. So I'm driving down this dirt road. And I see what looks like a great big boulder in front of me all of a sudden. I go, and I just missed this boulder, and I swear. And then I'm sinking in this mud and debris and everything. And all of a sudden, I've got myself stuck, ripped out some new landscape. And I'm not where I want to be exactly, but I'm close. But I got 2 flat tires. So I get on my radio. I said, I got a problem. I'm not going anywhere. You got to send a tow truck out. My owner was pretty hot when he told me I had 2 flat tires. And oh my God, it was. And then, you know, the old folks, you know, the old folks are folks, I guess. But they come out And they got their shovel and their picks and their axes and whatever. They're trying to dig me out of this mud. And I said, never mind, I got 2 flat tires. But they're getting off. And then, everything was cool. They came, they told me out, and my night was pretty much ruined. And then a lady goes, I'm going to have to sue you for damages. I said, what damages? She goes, the brand new landscape that we planted a couple days ago, you just ripped out our lawn. I said, no way. I said, look, luckily I had a business license. So I said, I told this lady, I said, well, I'll come back and fix the landscape if it's that big of a deal. I said, I can do something. I'm legally able to do that. She never called me, fortunately. And then, as a cab driver, of course, you drive crazy. And one night, it was about 2 a.m. in the morning, and I was up on Skyway Hill in Renton. And, man,
You want to take a break?
Yeah, take it just for about 30 seconds. So, if this doesn't work, that's fine. If it works, fine. We'll just see where it takes it.
Right.
Somebody may try to write a book. They might, So I think that the title's going to be, This Can Only Happen to You. Which I figure, of all the titles, I think that comes out pretty, about what I want it to happen. And I'm just hoping that whoever likes this just starts busting up, most people are going to look at this movie, okay, if it ever becomes a movie, they're going to say, I was a cab driver, oh man, I remember now this, that, and that's all I want out of it. For people that laugh, okay, stupid situations you get into. Because everybody has, well, not everybody, I mean, I'd say a lot of people have a very shallow life. I mean, I don't know. Probably most people aren't going to fall in a manhole on their mission and almost drown, but, Or the Parasite, I got the slide, and then I got the actual accident report, how my foot slipped off the accelerator. It's going to be like, okay, the guy's telling a story, but it's just kind of made up fantasy. And then they're going to see like, oh, geez, here's a baseball with a red dot. Yeah, it probably did hit the track and hit him in the head, I mean, so... And I'm going to try to find the green flag, UCI, United, whatever I can find to kind of like show I was there too. Uh-huh. And I like the butterfly, I got a monarch, okay, And so, anyway, I'm about ready to roll here. Hang on, I think, let me look at this last page. Okay, this is only going to take about 2 seconds. I'm just going to... Okay, with this guy, while you're doing that, I'm going to take a quick gander. Okay. Yeah, accident, bad. Oh, okay. Get that, I got 2 more. One day, I had been working over 24 hours straight. I was making a lot of money, and that's illegal, by the way, and you'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, I was dead tired, and I got up to Skyway Hill. I stopped at a stop sign, and as I turned the corner, I must have been going about 75 miles an hour, and I said, oh man, that's right, it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit up here. And just about the time I was jamming on my brakes to slow down, a Smoky comes flying out of these bushes with the lights going. I go, uh-oh. So I have this Seattle Oriental cop coming over, and he's pulling me over. And he says, sir, how fast are you going? Hey, before you say anything, I know it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, and I was braking before I even saw you. I said, I know it's supposed to 30 up here. I said, I've been up here, I'm really tired. And he goes, yeah, you look like you're a little bit tired. He says, I'll tell you what. Can I see your log sheet? And for those, in the trucking business, they have like a log. Well, in the taxi cab business, you're supposed to write down point A to point B and have an official log sheet if you really want to follow the rules. Most cab drivers did. For some reason this day, fortunately for me, I wrote nice and neat when I have bad penmanship, but I wrote down all the hours I've been working and everything I've done all day. And the officer said, you realize you've broken the law? You can only work so many hours? And I said, yeah, but I said, this is a commissioned job, Your Honor, And he goes, look, you're finished for the night. I don't want to write you up for reckless driving, speeding, and being belligerent to a cop, kind of. And I said, well, you know, you're a cool dude. You know, I said, I'm sorry. Apologize, of course. He said, look, you're finished. I said, no. I said, I'm finished. Here's my mic, sir. Would you mind telling me? And he gets there. Smokey says such and such a driver in this cab will no longer take any calls tonight. Is that understood? He's going home and going to bed. He's off the air. I said, thank you. And I went home and went straight to bed that night, fortunately. You get all kinds of people in the cabs. This one guy's a little bit weird. He started reaching for me, and I had to tell him to get outside the cab. I said, that's it, man. No thank you. It was hard to get rid of him, but there's just a myriad of things that happen in the cab. Oh, never mind. I'm going to scratch that one. I think I'm done with the cab stories anyway. Oh, one last. Okay, can you go back? One last cab story. You're going to do a lot of editing, I think. One day I was in I think it was a Hilton Hotel, and I was the 8th cab in line, and a good call came out for 7 taxi cabs to go to McCord Air Force Base to pick up a Flying Tigers crew, which means you're going to make it anywhere from $50 to $100, you know, for yourself, which isn't bad. And they were calling off all the cabs. I'm going, oh man, I'm so close, I might get it. And they stopped the cab before me and he said, that's all we need. And I was the next one in line. And I was like, oh man, it's not my lucky day. But it turned out to be my lucky day, actually. One of the cab driver before me, he was in the same hotel and I had just talked to him. He got in his cab and he was going to go to McCord. And about 3 minutes later, if that, there's a radio call that comes out and this cab driver says, you're going to have to send the next cab. I just got in a major wreck in the parking lot with a customer in the hotel. I came around the corner and I was excited about my call and I wasn't paying attention and I smacked up my cab and it's pretty bad. So, and then I said, thank you for the ride, for the good trip, and I was able to go to McCord and it was my lucky day. So there you go. Okay. Now I'm going to have to... Oh, I'm going to do the hotel before I do the United SeaTac. That one's going to be funny. How are we doing time? How long is this taking?
It's been like half an hour.
That's not bad. I don't think I even got another half an hour's material. Should move on pretty quick.
About 40 minutes.
Well, I don't want to try to make this no more than an hour. Try. Oh my goodness.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. While I was a cab driver, I had a part-time job at United Airlines, and I got a hotel job at the Stouffer Madison Hotel, a 4-class star hotel. And while I was working at the hotel, the first day I was chopping up lemons, and I just about took out my little finger with this knife. I was chopping up lemons. And so anyway, my supervisor said, this isn't going to look too good. You cut your finger on the first day of job, and I've got to write a first aid report. I said, well, sir, I can't help it. I cut my finger. You know, it's life in a big city, I guess. And then they didn't tell me in the Stouffer Madison Hotel that there's like 3 restaurants, and they didn't tell me you can only wash dishes in one machine. So I went and I stacked up with dishwashers in all 3 areas, all 3 restaurants, and I turned them all on at one time. Well, the drain wasn't very good there, and I guess they got radio calls. Hey, there's water going in rooms, there's water going in lobbies, there's water going in the whole hotel. Water is just leaking. It's just coming through the ceilings. We don't know where it's coming from. And everybody's pretty excited. He says some of the guests, they're soaked, and it was bad news. And then they come up to me and said, are you washing dishes? I go, well, yeah, I'm running 3. He said, you can only run 1 at a time. Did anybody bother to tell you? You just flooded out this hotel, basically. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, well, it's not your fault. I guess we forgot to tell you, but don't do that again. He said, you don't know what's going on down here. And then one day they had this thing called a multi-decker. And it was really super long, and you could probably put several hundred dishes on the thing. Well, I guess I put one dish too many, and the thing got a little bit wobbly, and I couldn't grab it. And it fell over on its side, And I can hear all the customers eating the restaurant. Somebody's going to get fired today. They can hear all the busted plates and glasses. And I said, I walked in the same restaurant. I said, anybody know where a broom and a dustpan is? I got to clean up. And holy moly. So that was, and then, you know, I didn't really like that job. And I guess maybe they didn't like me either too much. And a lot of people were over, and a lot of employees were going to quit. I said, you guys talk about quitting. I quit. And I pretty much walked out of the job just before Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Well, I didn't think too much about it, you know, I mean, and no big deal. I get a call New Year's Eve from the hotel manager, and he says, would you like to come back to work? He said, I have not one. He said, when you quit, you took everybody with me. I do not have one dishwasher. I had this huge banquet, and I'm literally washing dishes, and I'd really like some help. I said, oh, well, you know, I got plans for New Year's tonight. I'm sorry. I don't want to come back and work with you. Sorry, Charlie, you know, it's life in the big city again, but okay. This one's going to have to be. All right. And then, to be honest, I got one of my favorite jobs. I got hired in, I was doing the cab driving, and one day, and a United flight attendant says, if you apply today, I think you can get a job cleaning airplanes in United. It's a pretty big airline. It's good. You get to fly free. It's a nice company. So I said, okay, ma'am. And I filled in an application, turned it in, sent it to Chicago. And I got a call about a week later, and they were going to hire me temporary. And Mr. Manoli, I said, look, I want to be either permanent part-time so I get benefits and I stay here. I said, I can't just work 3 months and not have a job. He goes, there's only 2 of you left. So, okay, you know what? I changed my mind right in the interview. He says, I personally can extend you a job and you'll be permanent here, no problem. I said, okay, I'll take the job. And I really like my job in Seattle. But I guess I have a sense of humor, and I guess things happen in the airline industry. We had this tough lead, and I was a part-timer, and her name was Louise, and she used to just rip on people. If you missed a roll of toilet paper at 727, you'd really hear about it. And she was a really good lead, but she was a very firm lead, and she'll really tell you off if you don't do a good job. You better not miss anything. If she said do it, you do it. One of Louise's weaknesses was she liked to play cards. And she liked to play a game called cribbage, and I noticed that. I was in the break room, and she'd play with the ramps and mechanics, and she was a poor sport. She lost. They had to play another game. And then she'd say, I got to get up and go check on the other employees, and then she'd come over and raise Cain with all of us that were working all the time. You know, she kept an eye on us, and she wasn't with us, but she'd check our work, and she didn't miss nothing. So one day I said, maybe I ought to learn how to play this game of cribbage. Smart person, I'm using my, you know. So I said, I'm going to be her partner, man. This will be great. I'll get a lot of fun out of this. So I learned cribbage. I said, hey, Louise, can I be your partner? Look, I know how to play the game, and I'm pretty good actually now. She goes, sure. So every day it seemed like she'd be playing cards. I'd be in her break room, and it'd be time to go to work, and the whole cruise would go out there. And I played cribbage with her. She said, no, you stay right there. I said, I better go to work. No, you're not working. You're my partner. And she'd leave me playing cards with her. And she said, but I got to go, guys. Hang on. I'm just going to run check the crew out. She'd come back, and she'd be jaw-jacking how they screwed up and didn't do the job right. And I go, okay. And then I had several of the part-timers come up to me and they said, this isn't fair. I said, either you learn the game of cribbage or you shut up. I said, none of y'all know how to play the game. I'm her partner. That's the way it is. I got by with and then one day, we were doing some cleaning, and I walked in a men's bathroom in the kitchen where I was cleaning. I saw one of the cabin service employees passed out in a urinal. His head was in the toilet. And I said, whoa, what's that smell? And I ran in there and I grabbed him and pulled him out, and he was like, oh, I'm dying. I said, what'd you do, Sherlock? He said, I don't know, I made some kind of mustard gas, I had ammonia and bleach or something. I don't know what he threw. I said, man, you almost killed me with you. And the paramedics came and the cops came and they had to evacuate the building. And I don't know what he mixed, but never mixed chemicals. You know, most janitors would know that, but he did. And he's lucky he's alive. If I hadn't come in there another 30 seconds, he might not be around today. So I thought that was amazing. We saved him. Hang on a minute. Okay. They don't have too many. I didn't want to do the laboratory trucks, okay? You know, dump the stuff out, crap out of the airplanes, you know. Somebody's got to do that job, I guess. You put a thing, hook it up. It was very complicated in those days. They had donuts in there, and there was a lot of problems, and you had to be careful. It's not the cleanest stuff in the world. Most people wouldn't want to be around getting things that give you hepatitis, AIDS, or any other disease. Who knows what's in there, but... Anyway, I got elected one day to be trained, and I tried to procrastinate, but it didn't happen. My boss says, nah, you got to go, seniority union job. So I said, all right. So I'm out there being trained, and I guess they had this little thing you clip on, and it has ball bearings. And anyway, I was supposed to hold the thing on there, make sure it's in place, and I pushed the button for 18 gallons of blue cheer to go into the airplane. Blue cheer is the stuff that they put in the toilets, and it makes the smell a little nicer. But it's formaldehyde, and it's very cancerous, very nasty stuff, and you're told not to ever get on your skin. We got to wear shields, special clothing, and whatever not. But anyway, the stupid hose fell off, and I aimed it at a Romanian guy who's neat, clean, sharp, doesn't even like a little piece of dirt on him. And this Romanian guy was happy until when the hose came off, as I was trying to tell him where's the emergency shut-off, I plastered him from head to toe with this blue cheer stuff that's not nice. And he was literally blue-skinned, and his face, his teeth, his eyes, his ears, his whole body was covered in this blue cheer stuff that was very cancerous and nasty. And I said, sorry, I just got excited. How do you shut this thing off, man? And it's like, he was not happy. So I didn't have to go do labs for a while after that. But then after a while, it seemed like everybody wanted to do it in the summertime, but in the wintertime, I had to go out there. Nobody wanted to be out in the wet, rainy weather with the wind blowing in your face so you can get the smell and aroma and all this nonsense stuff that's in there, the waste, the human waste. But anyway, I'm out there working one day, and I come into work, and my boss says, look, there's 100 flights there around noon at that time for the airline I worked for, and he said, you're the only lab driver. He said, you're just basically going to dump the load, fill it up with this blue stuff, and get out of there. He says, don't spend any time on any of the airplanes. We can't take thousands of dollars delays. Nobody else is going to help you. Nobody else is qualified. So I'm out there, one truck, and I got 60, 70 planes just going around all during the morning. And I'm just like, wow. So I'm in a hurry, and pretty soon I'm dropping logs, and I'm dropping waste. And I'm literally just like, things weren't going right. I broke the T-handle. I know in the lab, broke a little handles. The donuts weren't in there. So if the plane flies, literally the stuff can freeze up and fall out of the airplanes. And anyway, it was a rough day. And pretty soon I hear radio calls. What's all the crap on the ground? People are all these people, all the ramp employees are slipping on the crap all over the ground, and it's not being cleaned up proper. It's not even being cleaned up at all, actually. And I'm leaving it laying on the ground. So I think I'm going to get in trouble, but I said, my boss told me I got to do all these airplanes. Delays are money for an airline. So I said, forget it. And I just kept doing it all day, and I never had to clean up any of the messes. Finally, I saw some people with shovels scooping and scraping, and that was the way it went. But that was a just awful day. Hang on, I'm going to... And then one of my friends... this is ridiculous, but we weren't supposed to eat the company food on an airplane, but one day I went up on a canceled Tokyo flight. I pulled off all the steak dinners, lobsters, and I had a break room. There's like a long window, and I pulled a tablecloth and I set it up, even with the china. It was like dumb, the way to lose your job. But anyway, I set up this table, and my friend and I and a few of us were going to sit down and eat. I went to the restroom around the corner. I come back, and all I see is steaks and broken dishes on the floor. And my buddy, I said, well, what's going on with my steaks? He said, when you went to the restroom, you almost got us all fired. He said, a CEO from Chicago walked by, turned his head, and almost saw what was on the table, and he would have walked us all out of here. I said, well, I don't know nothing. I was in the bathroom, so I was cool. I wouldn't have been gone. Take the fifth. Everybody goes, yeah, but I would have. You almost rubbed me out of my job. He said, I had to pull the tablecloth. So I guess we didn't get the meal we desired that day, but oh well. This one, hey, there's FAA rules, but 4th of July one year, I'm working in the back of the plane as a cleaner, and Smitty, one of our older employees, is working up in the front of the airplane. He finds a few bottle rockets and these sky rockets on the airplane before 9/11, but I don't know if you can even take fireworks in those days, but somebody did. They left these fireworks in the front of the plane. And he took his lighter out, and the stupid idiot decided he's going to shoot skyrockets at me. So I'm working, and I hear, and I duck, and boom, you know. And I said, oh man, I said, hey, you want to go to penitentiary the rest of your life? You realize what's going to happen? And by then, the whole plane was full of smoke. So one of my friends just came up there, and he says, we got to open up the doors and get this smoke out of here. This isn't going to be good. A DC-10, and that'd probably blown up the whole airport in Seattle. Man, it was like nuts. You got sparks, flames. He's out of his mind. Man. So anyway, we opened up all the doors and smoke's pouring out. I thought the plane was on fire at that point. And it smelled. You know, how many of you know about pyrotechnics? And they smell. And so we had to cover up the whole smell. Well, I had this cheap lab spray, and I was like spraying this whole stuff, and it was like lucky we got by with it. We didn't get in trouble, but. And then one time, you know, for those of you who've been in a union, you know, you have a shop steward to represent you. And I was working on an airplane, and I was happy one day doing my job, and Mindy, my shop steward, comes up there, and they go, Breitzman, you're going to be fired right now. I said, I am? She goes, I don't know what you did. But she said, you got the manager, assistant manager, the union, the company, a special employee, special witnesses. You got them all there. And they're all sitting at a conference table, and they said, you go get Breitzman ASAP, because we're walking him out of here today and pulling his badge. And I said, what? And I was like, okay, I'm laughing. I think, oh, this is some kind of a joke, man. I don't know what. So I have no clue why they're calling me in, but I got to go, of course. So I'm in there, and I walked in, I opened up the conference room door, and I look, and lo and behold, there ain't nobody and anybody that ain't there that's important in this company, man, I'm telling you. And he said, hey, Bryce, go down the end down there, in the end of the conference table, small, kind of medium-sized company. I said, okay. So I went down there, and I kind of like proceeding to sit down. And Mr. McCain, the guy that was doing the interview, he gets up and he points his finger at me. He said, this is an investigation. If you lie, you're fired. And I guess I lost my composure, my cool, and I turned red as red can be. And I got up and I said, oh yeah? And I went, whew, as hard as I could. And my knees nailed the table. And I don't know if they're brass or marble, but they had some pretty heavy bookends, and they were right by this guy, Mr. McCain. They're right near him. And they slid down the table because I jumped up with full force as hard as I possibly could. I was angry. Boom. Nailed him in the chest. The guy was like coughing, having a hard time breathing. He bruised his chest, actually. I found out I actually bruised his chest with these stupid bookends. But I didn't hit him. I told him, look, I didn't hit you. I guess the bookends got you, but I'm not getting fired for hitting anybody. I said, you know. And he goes, calm down, Breitzman. He said, just go outside. I said, okay, I'm going to go calm down, man. I said, search me why I'm here. I have no ideas. I said, Mindy, I still don't know why I'm here. And it was getting pretty, oh, man, I mean, the people are like, whoa, we got a disgruntled airline employee here, man. Somebody's really mad. I go, yeah, I got a right to be. So in a few minutes, I come back in there, and I go, turn him out. Why am I here? And he goes, well, you know this employee over here? I go, yeah, upgrade supervisor. Yeah, I know this dude. He goes, well, he wrote an 8-page letter against you, and he said you threatened him. I said, well, yeah. I said, I threw away some important ramp papers, now I remember. I said, but they were in the trash can, and they went in the incinerator, and I can't help it if it's filling sheets, and he's going to lose his job because he screwed up and wasn't responsible for his paperwork. But I said, not only that, the man gave me the finger and he effed me and he told me how bad my department is and how bad I am personally. I said, now look, I'm going to tell you all something. Remember 2 weeks ago we had a harassment class and every one of you was present there. And I said, I was there. I said, we went through this training where the company spent a lot of money to have this harassment class. And he said, you cannot F anybody on the job. You cannot treat them unfairly. We're all equals here, and we all need to be nice to each other. And anybody that does that will be walked out and fired. I said, may I see that 8-page report, please? I said, look what he wrote in here. He put the word F word in the paper. And I said, he put GD and all the other things he said. I said, you know what? You remember 2 weeks ago, you're fired if you do that. And I said, he's a dumb idiot. I said, that stupid idiot, he wrote it in writing. So y'all can't deny it. It happened. He wrote it in his own words. I said, he's fired. I'm walking out of here. He goes, no, we're all walking out of here. Case dismissed. Never mind. And then I walked out, and I was laughing. I was talking to town, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. 2 years later, I was in L.A. when I worked for United down there. I seen Mr. McCain. Hey, you're the dude that bruised my chest. I go, yeah, I guess I was the guy. But everything was happy in those days, so I guess it all worked out. And then one other time, a guy had the mechanics were parking the parking lot, and they'd have to go to the terminal. And so these mechanics were driving this 42-foot old school bus. And we got to ride along. All the departments can ride on the bus, but basically it's for the mechanics to go to their work area at the terminal. Because they didn't want to have one-by-one cars going down to the terminal, to pick them up. So they put them all on a bus. Well, one day I worked overtime and I had an important appointment, and a guy gave me the finger and he drove off and said, I ain't giving no cabin service people a ride. What do you think of that? Well, I didn't think too highly of that. So about 2 days later, I came down there to the parking lot, and I saw the 42-foot bus with the keys in the ignition and nobody around. So I said, I'm going for a little joyride with this 42-foot bus. I'm thinking, what can I do? I know what I'll do. United was at the north satellite of SeaTac Airport. Pan Am had just gone out of business. They're at the south end, like the opposite direction, all the way down the other end of the airport. I said, I'm going to take this 42 bus, and good luck finding it for a while. And I took this 42 school bus. I wasn't qualified to drive this thing first, so I had a special license, but I said, I'm going to take my chances. And I drove the 42-foot bus down to the old Pan American hangar, went around the back corner, and I made sure that nobody's going to find it too easily. And I kind of weaseled in between a bunch of abandoned vehicles, and I left it there. And I decided I'm going to take the keys too. And I got the train, went back to my work area, and didn't think nothing about it. The next morning, I come to briefing. Hey, anybody seen a 42-foot bus? You're screwing up the operation. They can't just walk away. Who stole the 42-foot school bus? What would you want to do with it? Where is it? Does anybody know? I don't want no bus. And I'm like, oh man, I'm trying not to be too guilty or look too incriminating. I don't know what that bus is. What bus? And he says, well, we're getting tired of running vehicles one by one until we find that bus. And it took them about a week later. They said, oh, we finally found the bus, by the way. It was down by Pan Am, but we had a hard time making a key for it because we didn't have another key. And that served the guy right and served the mechanics right for not treating us equal. And then I think the most famous thing that ever happened to me in Seattle, one day we had a lead and her name was Marge. We called her Sarge. She was kind of tough, but anyway, Sarge comes up to me and says, Breitzman, you're going to strip and wax this gigantic floor. We got a special conference coming up this week, and we need this floor done today, and you got 8 hours, and you better have it done. And I'm like really upset, and I'm going, well, you refuse to lead a course on any job, you'd be fired. So I don't want to lose my job, which is a good job. And I said, okay, you know what, Sarge? You got it, baby. I just went over there, got all my stuff. That's something I screwed up in the beginning, which was real bad. I forgot you put the fans on when the floors got waxed to dry. Well, I put the stripper on, and I had this great big, huge, outdated buffer. And anyway, I took this outdated buffer, and I was stripping it. And I put the fans on the stripper, so I dried the stripper on the floor, which wasn't a real good move. So my lead come in, Breitzman, are you done yet? You got it started at least? I said, yeah, I got it started. He goes, you don't dry the stripper, stupid. I said, oh, yeah, that's right, it's the wax. I haven't done this in a while. I'm sorry. So I had to proceed to strip the floor. Well, I'm finally making progress, and I'm getting ready, and I got about 3/4 of the floor. I got a nice coat of wax. I just put it down nice. You know, wax is stripped. You know, wax is very sticky, and you don't want nobody to walk on it. You know, it has to dry and cure and everything. So the floor was kind of, I just got the wax down. I was going to strip the last little bit. There's like a little office over the side. I was going to strip it. I don't know what happened, but I guess strippers are slippery, and I slipped. But I was hanging onto the buffer, and when I went down, I couldn't let go of the stupid buffer. My hands got stuck to it or something, and it was dragging me across the floor. And I'm thinking, man, I'm watching the wall, the baseboards get chewed up, and I put a nice little hole actually in the wall, bounced out pretty hard. It spun me around, and the buffer's out of control, and I'm on the ground, literally stretched out, sliding, and I go, no way! I see this fire extinguisher. It's probably got 100-gallon, a huge one. It wasn't no little one, but and it's on the wall in these little thin aluminum brackets. I go, no way, this isn't going to happen. And I knew it might, but I was trying everything I could. I'm like kind of dazed and confused, half knocked out, and I'm laying there. And I slid so hard, I hit the wall right underneath it, and the stupid fire extinguisher brackets broke. Not only did the fire extinguisher fall on the floor, it fell in the handle, so it shot off all that yellow. Have you ever, I don't know how many of you ever seen those the yellow junk that's in those fire extinguishers, the chemical kind? It splattered my fresh wax job instantaneously, just stuck like it's like that fine powder stuff, you know, it's like yellow, and you can sweep for days and never get it all. It just stuck and wiped out the whole floor. So I'm laying there and I go, oh man, now I'm busted now, man. And I think, what's my next plan of attack here? And I think I wrenched my back out, man. So I'm walking down the stairs, and here comes Sarge again. And Sarge tells me, she goes, Breitzman, you finished one. I go, no, but you're going to take me to emergency right now. I said, I called the supervisor and I got to go to you. I said, sorry about the mess. I said, I kind of took out a wall, a fire extinguisher and all the powders. And Sarge was hot. And then a guy named Jim comes up there and he had to do the floor again. He was just shaking his head. He was not a happy. And I ended up getting overtime that day. I was in the hospital, and not only that, they gave me some nice, I don't know, it was codeine or something, but they gave me some nice pills to take to relax my muscles. I was real happy with the whole situation. And I got the last laugh. 2 weeks later, my boss comes up with these black slippers. From now on, if we do floors, we must wear these black slippers so we don't fall. And he said, that fire extinguisher cost me a lot of money to replace. I said, oh, yeah, you know. Okay, take a little breather. Shut it off for a minute. Mount Shasta, and the steel was all the way around the tire. There was no rubber. I told Mikey, you're not going to go 90 anymore. Go about 60. We finally got to Medford, Oregon. The tire blew pretty much, almost blew. So, but anyway, I was in Oregon, and this is a hairpin curve road. I went to steer, and the steering wheel was locked up, and I slid on an angle across the hairpin curve road. And then I was driving on the shoulder like 10 miles an hour and all these trucks, and it was like a weekend. It was driving to Vancouver, Washington with Mikey. And he had wrecked up that car a week before, and I had no side mirror. Oh man, bald tires, couldn't steer it, had no alignment at all. It was like, God, that car was all dented up, and we could have been dead. I mean, I don't know how he made that one, man. It was like, and I'm going to talk about I ran out of gas with the family in the car. On a Sunday, went to conference with Mercy and her parents and a couple sisters, I guess. We're driving around late, like we went to a Saturday session. We decided we want to come back, so we were in conference. And we're halfway down Utah. I don't know where we were. I said, "What's wrong with the car?" Dun, 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 I'm running out of gas, and it was cold. It was like April. Snow was on the ground and everything on the side of the road. We all slept in the car, man. And the next morning, everyone was out pushing, and his truck driver came by, right? And he said, I'll take you to, he said, there's not too many stations open early Sunday morning. He said, nothing's open in Mormon land, you know, pretty much. But, I mean, they have a few stations open. So I finally got gas, but the guy tied, I said, be careful. And he put a hole in the canister. I only had like a half a gallon by the time I came back, maybe a gallon out of 5. The rest leaked because he put a hole in the plastic container. Holy cow. Mercy doesn't like to remember all these things. Okay. All right, that's gonna. I'm almost done. I'm kind of glad I'm almost done. To be honest, I'm losing my. Okay. Okay. I know where we left off. I remember which experiences. See, all those papers are. I'm sure I'm forgetting some funnier ones. No, these aren't really the funniest ones, really. They're craziest. How many people could drop logs all over an airport and get by with it, though? That was nasty, man. That was nasty. They were like, "Who's the dude?" And I mean, I would have been. I had a nice thick report of United. I'm not kidding. I think that's why in LA they didn't want to make me a lab driver. They read about how I bruised this guy's chest. I'm sure it was all in this huge report. My friend got the call too that now I wrecked the airplane, because the next day he called me, "How come you wrecked it?" I said, "How did you know I wrecked up an airplane?" Because I was the one that got the phone call. They thought you were mentally incompetent, and they were like, "What's wrong with you, man?" They called in Seattle and said, "Is this due to a mental case? How the heck can a guy take a truck to an airplane?" Okay. When you're ready, just let me know.
You're ready.
Let me just take a deep breath. I'd like to talk about one of my friends, Paul Isles, that I used to work with. He was Italian, and he worked with me at SeaTac Airport when I worked with the Friendly Skies. Well, Paul was kind of a funny guy like me, and one day we were working like late night shift, and Paul says, "I feel like having steaks at my house." And I'm work company time. He says, "I don't care. I want to eat." I said, "Yeah, all right, whatever. We can get our job done real quick, and we'll sneak out and come back." So we're in our uniforms, and Paul said, "I'm going to go to a Safeway market." I said, "Well, you better go to one by the airport, and let's not be gone more than most of our lunch." He goes, "Forget it. I'm going to go to one by my house, and yeah, we're going to be gone for 2 or 3 hours. Who cares?" I said, "You sure?" He said, "We won't get fired. Don't worry about it. I'll cover for you." I said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah." So anyway, Paul and I went to a Safeway in Burien, Washington, and we were looking for steaks and all the d'oeuvres and everything we wanted. And we were separated. He was in the front, I was in the back. He's buying drinks. And one of the United supervisors happened to be pulling up about that hour. The kind of guy, his name was Glenn. Glenn was the kind of all-company guy that would fire you on the spot. That had not, you better obey the rules. He was a really tough supervisor, and he knew me and Paul and I very well. And we were in uniform, and it didn't look real good. So I was kind of gesturing to Paul. I saw Paul. First of all, I knocked down a whole a bunch of goods off a shelf. I got excited. I tried to duck into a shelf so I wouldn't be seen. And the whole thing of cans fell over and made a bunch of racket. So I ran over, and I was signaling to Paul, "We got to get out of here." There's a little glass mirror, round mirror about yay big. And somebody, an employee in the store, saw me and thought we were trying to steal stuff, or he was like, "What are they doing off the mirror?" And I was trying to, "Paul, we got to get the Sam Hill out of Dodge. We're leaving, man." I said, "Forget the steaks." So Paul goes, "Yeah." He said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Glenn's here." He goes, "You're kidding." You know, he's doing his full grocery shopping at 2 a.m. and here we are. He knows we're supposed to be at work. So anyway, we dodged a bullet. Paul said, "I'm going to pick up a few drinks." And then we got in his car. And Paul Isles' car wouldn't start. It was like a super cold morning, but he had a stick shift. But we're right in front of the market trying to start the car to get back to work. So we went straight back to work and just nonchalantly tried to go do whatever we had to do over there. We didn't know if we were seen or not. About a month later, an upgrade supervisor came in the break room one night. He looked at Paul and I and he says, "Oh, by the way, I'm told to keep a good eye on both of you from somebody." So apparently this Glenn guy didn't see us, but he didn't fire us, but he's the kind of guy that could do that. I mean, I guess he didn't confront us in the store maybe, so maybe he wouldn't have held up. But anyway, we got lucky with that one. And I'd like to tell a story. I was having some tough times in life, and one day, Paul Isles said, "Look, I'm going to Vegas. You want to go with me?" And we tried to get on a United nonstop Vegas flight. We couldn't, so we were going on an American West flight. Well, you can always tell things turn out weird, but as a standby, it's tough to get a seat on an airplane. Well, American West had an early morning Vegas flight, and Paul got on and I didn't. and he said, I said, I'll meet you in Phoenix. I said, I'm going to go over there and change my ticket, and I'll have to fly Phoenix to get to Vegas on America West. They got seats, they telling me. So Paul's on the nonstop flight, and he's just, I got this room in Vegas. Meet me there when you get there. I said, okay, that's cool. So I went and I got my Vegas seat. I'm walking back to wait for my Phoenix flight to get to Vegas. Paul, I also said, I was sitting in a first class seat, and a kid came out of the restroom, and he said, sir, you're in my seat. And Paul knew there was no more seats, so he said, I'm going to Vegas with you, Breitzman. So anyway, we flew to Vegas. My Paul, during the day, he had gotten about over $1,000 in money from different people to bet on the World Series. He's making like $1 or $2 each bet for him. You know, maybe a little extra gambling for himself as well. And so he had this list, and he showed me this long list, the names and monies and everything. That's cool. So we get on the Phoenix flight. We get down to the Phoenix. We find out there's an American West pilot strike kind of going on. And there's 250 standbys trying to get to Vegas. And we don't even work for America West, so we're going to be even lower priority. And we're trying flights all day. Well, one of these flights, we had to go through the x-ray machine there in those days, and because it's such a big terminal there, even if you're on American West flight from one to the other, you had to every time go through it seemed like a different x-ray machine to be checked out. And sure enough, Paul's paper slipped out of his pocket or something, or notebook, whatever he had, and the x-ray machine ate it up. It just chewed it up. So he had no clue what was on there, how much money he had, and he was like not very happy about it. He says, I'm going to get in big trouble when I return and didn't bet the money. He says, no, we ain't going to get to Vegas tonight. You know, I doubt it. So we were there all day in Vegas, and the last flight came, and I don't know where Paul went. I heard my name, and I got on there, and he said, if you find a seat, you're on the airplane. So I'm walking along on the Stretch 57 America West, last flight of the night around midnight, the midnight special to Vegas. And I see one seat, and it's a center seat. And I tell this lady, I said, look, you mind? Actually, I said, do you mind if you take your window seat, sit in the center, and I want to sit by the window? And I said, I want all the pillows and blankets I possibly can have. And so everybody's going, what's this guy doing? I said, well, you know, I got the seat. So anyway, I make a little barricade for me, and I'm like, you know, what's going on? You see my buddy Isles come walking up the aisle. And I know there's no more seats. He knows there's no more seats, and he's in his short, and he's got this little smirk look at me, and he's like walking nonchalantly. He walks to the end of the plane, he comes back, and then he literally tries to beat me up. He reaches over to these passengers, he tries to hit me, and I'm putting up the pillows and the blankets as a barricade, and he's getting really mad. I mean, you're talking about tomato, he's red. He's like blowing a fuse. He's literally he's just fuming. I don't know what his blood pressure high, but it was high, and he was mad, really angry at me. So anyway, I said, so Paul said, I'm throwing this guy off the plane. I got more seniority, that's my seat, it's my hotel room, and my buddy can spend the night in Phoenix because I'm not. And the guy said, no, I'm calling the FAA and you're going to jail because you're delaying my flight. Either you get off in 30 seconds or you're going for a federal crime. I don't care, it's your choice. So he's walking off, and I said, thanks for the room, I'll leave the light on. And he turned around and had that funny looking glare at me in the back of the plane. It was a Vegas flight anyway, so what the heck, but people are going, you really got that guy mad, man. And they're like, what is going on here? And all havoc was breaking loose, and I'm like kind of laughing. So we get in the air, and I get the lady back in the window seat, and they're still talking the whole flight. Half the back of the plane's talking about, don't go see your buddy again, he's gonna kill you. I said, oh man, he'll get over it. And he said, you should have told him that. And he's the one that paid for the room. I go, well, I know, but I'm gone, and he's not. That's the way it is. Luckily for me, I guess, and for him too, is some girl gave up a first class seat, and there's like the curtain, and I didn't know he was on the plane, but the girl said, look, you're gonna kill your buddy, I'm off, man, I'll go tomorrow. Said, let's just switch seats, and so they allowed him to do that. So I'm in Vegas, and I'm walking, I got the address, I'm gonna go to a hotel room, motel room, whatever it was. And he tapped me on the shoulder, and I jumped 10 feet, and we exchanged a few words. He said, that's cool, we're here. So anyway, I went out playing some change all night, and so did him. We didn't meet up like we were supposed to. He went to bed kind of early, you know. He was laying in a bed by the door, And I was walking, and there's this fire extinguisher in Vegas was like broken or something. Anyway, I was like knee deep in water, and it was kind of scummy water out of the fire hydrant. So I was kind of like messed up. And I'm walking, and I open up the door of the room where we were. And Paul Miles was sitting right in the first bed, and I had the bed over on the other side of the wall. And I tripped over a lamp, and the lamp went down, and I fell on top of this guy. Now, I'm twice the size of him, so, you know, you can tell. He's a little short Italian guy. Flattened the air out of him, and he was not a happy camper. He was pretty hostile at this point. But we went to bed and think of it, you know, it's a Vegas trip, whatever, unwind. Next morning, you see my Italian glasses? No, I haven't seen your Italian glasses. What am I don't want to be liable for nothing else this trip. Enough's enough. Can't find him anywhere. So he goes and he throws on his socks and he puts his foot in one of his shoes. There's his glasses. He cracked the lens and frame or something, bent it all up, and holy moly. Now, they were made in Italy, and they were expensive glasses, and they were ruined, and he was not happy. And anyway, we flew back to Seattle, and all was pretty well. Now I'd just like to tell you a little bit about travels. I've been able to go to a few countries. One of which I was trying to do some good things. I went to the Philippines on a church mission, and we were walking in a typhoon one day. Basically, it's called a hurricane here in the U.S., but a typhoon, it was a direct hit. And you know, you think nothing of it. I had water come up to about, maybe up to here. And I'm walking along on this road with my two buddies, you know, my two companions, and one of us disappeared from the earth, and that happened to be me. I was walking, and I sank in a sewer. And it was like a huge sewer pipe, you know, great big sewer pipe, and I fell in. And I remember I was going around like a washing machine, going, just getting totally thrashed, thinking, I don't want to die if I don't have to, but if I do, it's okay. I'm doing a good thing for God and, you know, helping others, and whatever it happens, it happens. What are you going to do? And I could hear my companions, where'd he go? And I guess they couldn't figure out where I had gone, and I didn't know where I was. I was in this sewer pipe. Should have been taken into the Pasig River, and it was not the cleanest water in the world either. It was polluted, you know. And I was like, and I don't remember if I ate or what, but I pushed up, and somebody grabbed my hand and pulled me up, and my commanders kind of got me somehow and pulled me out of the sewer system. One of the things, too, is I got sick in one of my last there, Santa Cruz Laguna. I got sick, and I went to take a dump, and anyway, when I went to the toilet, something crawled out of me. It kind of itched, and I looked down into it, and I said, that thing's just like the size of a snake. It crawled out of me. It was like bigger than a night crawler, and I got proof of it. I got a picture of this. But then, anyway, I put it in a jar, and I said, I better find out from some specialist what the Sam Hill's in my stomach. I don't know if I got any more of these things in there, because I was grossed out. It freaked me out. I mean, I had scorpion between my toes in this area. I had seen some stuff, but this one I was puking, man. I said, oh, man. Anyway, so the next day, I refrigerated, I took it into one of our sister missionaries who kind of stabbed me with the shots because they were special health missionaries. We had to get a gamma globulin and stuff. It's a long story with that one. But anyway, I went up to this health sister, and I go, oh, I'm feeling sick. Oh. And I had the jar behind my back with this thing crawling around in it. It was live and well. Oh, I'm sick, and this came out of me. And this sister like almost passed out. I thought for sure she was just gonna. She's like, help. She's like, I'm feeling faint. I can't handle life anymore, you know. So I remember, what's going on? I said, well, I was just showing a sister, and she's a health missionary expert, what I had in my stomach. And so, yeah, I think you better go to a specialist. So I took the time, and I went to a specialist, you know, and I was talking to this guy, and he goes, well, if you have a male and a female, you might have 1,000 of those in you. I said, no, you are kidding, aren't you? And I was like scared to death out of me. I said, you're kidding me. He goes, well, maybe, but he said, you might have a bunch more in there. You're going to have to starve them out. And I said, I think I've seen this worm before, you know, but he said, you're going to eat lots of bananas. And he said, anyway, they're good for you because they cure amoeba dysentery anyway. And I had that a couple of times. Mother's Resuma's binge, whatever they call it, stuff, you know. You flash, and there's no bathrooms, and, you know, life's like that in, you know, foreign countries sometimes. But and then never ride. I got a picture of this one too. Hit a train, but I got a bus looks like a pancake. Got flattened out. I forget how many bodies died there. But the bus tried to outrun a train, and it was called Philippine Rabbit. And I advise anybody that ever goes to Manila or the Philippines, don't ride on Philippine Rabbit. They're not noted for safety. You know, it's like India or something, and the buses go over cliffs, ravines, and people die innocently. And then, you know, one day I was on this bus, and I got my arm and my leg stuck in the stupid door. The door shut on me. And everybody's going, Joe's stuck in the bus. He's turning green and blue. He's going to pass out and die. And my companion was laughing so hard and making a ruckus. And the bus driver keeps driving for a while. And I could literally feel cars and trucks just scraping my arm and my legs as my arm and my leg were kind of stuck in the door, hanging out in traffic. And it was like so close, I could feel it just barely touching me. What, you know, that's just life in the big city over there like that. I think I'm going to hang on for a minute. I think that's it. Yeah, that's enough of that. And then I married my wife, and she's from El Salvador and Honduras. So I went down to Central America for the first time, and we flew down there. And we were down there, and my wife decided she wanted to fly home, but we ran out of money. So I said, you know what? I'll take I'll hitchhike. I don't have too much money. So she dropped me off in San Pedro Sula, Honduras, and I took a couple buses. Of course, we had a couple flat tires, no tire jacks. We take a big tree limb, and everybody in the thing trying to lift up the bus to put another ball tire on the one that blew out because it was bald, but you know, that was just the way things are in Central America. And I was doing okay, you know. It actually took me 8 days to get to, from San Pedro Sula, Honduras to Chile. It actually took me 8 days. And along the way, I traveled by train, and it was 120 out and probably 130 in. And in the rail car, I couldn't even see the front and the back. It was so dusty from the sand. Not only that, I was at a station that had these old boarded windows, and some kid, I guess the thing is they shoot slingshots. Kid drew blood, almost broke my nose. I had blood gashing out all over me. I couldn't breathe. I was up on the luggage rack. Hey, Joe's up on the rack. And a lot of the Mexicans and people on the train, you a coyote? You know, no, I'm not no coyote, and a coyote might not be the coyote you think. Coyote's like somebody that runs somebody across the border that collects funds and gets paid well, and then they sneak people across the border, so they call them coyotes. Not maybe named it sort of after the animal because they're very suspicious and quiet and do what they got to do. But I was in Mazatlan, had nothing to eat or drink, and I bought a fish from this lady, and I had like a $5 bill, and I thought she was going to give me some Mexican money back. Train starts to go. I said, no, never mind. Just keep the $5. And I'm hanging on with one hand trying to pull myself, and I will not let go of this fish. At least it was cooked good. It wasn't raw. And it was about all I had to eat for like a day or two. And there's really nothing to eat or drink on the train. It was really cheap. Didn't cost much money, but there were people had livestock and hard to breathe. And then before I was in Mexico, I went through Guatemala. And in Guatemala, you're supposed to have a visa. Well, I checked out of Honduras, okay, and I was like in a neutral zone standing up, but I was in a neutral zone. And I'm walking down this long hall, stop, Honduras, stamp my passport. Okay, you're good to go. Go ahead and go to Honduras. Go to Guatemala. So I walked over to Guatemala and I go, where's your visa? Visa? You want dinero? You all want money. And I threw my Visa card down on the stupid table. I said, there you go, just charge it. No, not Visa, Visa. And I don't know, he's trying to explain me something in Spanish. I said, what in the world are you talking? No entry. I said, well, what do you want me to do? Honduras got rid of me, man. I can't stand in the middle of two countries in a neutral zone. And these dudes started roughing each other up in front of me, too. And we're all like in this vicious argument. I said, excuse me, can somebody tell me what's going on here? Por favor, English, Spanish, something. I said, what's going on? visa, you got to have a consulate. Some guy finally kind of over and told me in English, you got to go back to Honduras now, go all the way down this stupid mountain on a truck, a hairpin curves, and the guy's a scary driver, you know, I almost lost the bus a couple times. Got down there, I'm underneath these trees in the middle of nowhere, which is super isolated for those that have been isolated in the world. And there's nothing around my little village, and you got a bunch of people looking at it like, wow, what's an American doing over here? So I'm over here, and the council guy comes in. The first thing he asked me was, he says, hey, what do you think of the political situation over here? And I go, no comment. I take the fib. I said, I just want to get through Guatemala. I'm tired. I want to go home. It's been like 3-4 days into the trip. He goes, here, for 365 days, enjoy Guatemala. I said, okay. So that's great. I get up the hill, no more booze, nothing. I'm thinking, and the guy goes, and people are telling me, hey, man, they start shooting people after dark when Americans go first. I said, you're kidding? No, we're not really kidding. They might kidnap you. You know, I mean, Guatemala knows they kidnap people for ransom and everything else. He said, I wouldn't walk along the road. I just walk. No, you ain't going to walk out here. He said, you'll be plugged 50 feet from the border. He said, there's snipers out there. No, I don't think so. But anyway, I'm using my brains. And I see a pickup truck, and I see a little boy and a little girl, Nino, you know, and I said, hey, my ride to freedom. I jumped in the back of the truck. Padre, they all come out. Hey, how you doing? ¿Cómo está? I said, hey, man, international, you know, use your thumb. Hey, man, I need a ride. No problema, man. Just get in the back of the truck. So we go in, and we go a few feet. Hairpin curve, worse than the San Bernardino Mountains, but it's just like the old winding road. We're going down there, and I'm bouncing off this truck, and I got bruises, man, from these kids, and man, we're just bam, bam, bam. What's going on? Hey, wait a minute, I don't hear the engine. Save that gasoline, it's gotta be. He's in neutral. Well, forget about the brakes. I wonder we can't slow down and do anything. We're going down this hill. I don't know how fast, but we roll in neutral. We ain't got the engine on, so I'm like, well, that's a great trip. Got down to the bottom of the hill, and they let me off, and I was fine. I got on a bus heading for Guatemala City again, you know, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm making progress. I'm going to get home in one piece. I'm going to stay alive. Middle of the night. Whoa, what's going on? Everybody, big spotlights, searchlights, everything focused on this bus. Solo America Uno, you know, I'm a Solo Uno Americano on the bus, man. I don't know. What's going on, man? Everybody have an M16 at their head. They line the side of the bus, a bunch of soldiers, man. They're like, hey, don't shoot. Turismo, we want my license, my dinero. What do you want, man? Don't shoot. Had my hands up. No shoot. My knees were rattling, and I'm like, holy moly, these guys are going to plug me. I said, hey, man, anybody know English? No, say, no, it's not. I said, hey, man, what's going on? So anyway, we getting off the bus, and I'm getting off the bus and my knees, and the guy sees me standing there, hey, line up. I have my hands up, you know, like everybody else. My knees are shaking. I turn around a little bit, and this guy takes a butt of his rifle, whacks me. I fall over in my rear end, and I'm laying on the ground. He starts laughing. Oh, heck, man, I guess I'm still alive. I'm not dead, and I'm going to start laughing, too. You know, I was like, hey, you just made my day, bro. Don't blow me away, man. I want to go home and see my wife and kids again. That'd be a good thing, you know. So anyway, after a while, they took everything off, and this was in the 80s, too. And you got to keep in mind, I was right by Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And there was a war going on in El Salvador. It's about the time that congressman got blown away in El Salvador, and all the Americans were getting chased down in the alleys. I don't know, I already saw the movie on that one, but it was a real events that were going on in this period of time. And so luckily I walked away without any trouble. So I ended up on the train, and I had buses, and like I said, I had 3 flat tires, and no food, no money, and southern Mexico's rough, and Mexico City, it's terrible trying to get out of there. And I finally got to TJ, I could say, it was an 8-day journey of all kinds of trivial experiences along the way. But I made it. Wasn't in the best of health by the time I got to TJ. I was pretty drained. Never go across the Sonora Desert in July and June in a cheap train or a car or anything else. It's hot out there, caliente. All right. Hang on, okay, I got that. Yeah. All right, I'm getting down to the nitty-gritty. And one of the things is that as you can tell, I did a lot of driving for couriers. I drove my own personal vehicles, and I drove my own cars, and I took a lot of journeys by auto. One such trip, I was young and foolish, and I was driving to Utah. And I started out in Southern California, and I got my first ticket ever. I was in my Toyota Corolla, and I was going about 75 Victorsville. And I guess it's like similar to today, actually. I think about it. There was a gas shortage in that time. And I had 5 gallons of gas because the gas stations closed early, so people weren't going very far. And High Patrolman said, I guess it's okay, you know, you kind of shouldn't be carrying gas in your front seat. But he said, I understand the station's closed, you're going to run out in the desert out here. So he wrote me up a ticket, and I was not very happy. You know, I was passing these trucks at Victorsville and got nailed. And so I was like doing okay, and it was like in the spring, early spring. I got to about Fillmore, Utah, and my defrost didn't work, my heater didn't, and I could not feel my feet. I had literally had frostbite. My car, I couldn't see nothing. And I was half asleep. I had not taken a break. I was driving, you know, long cross country from Southern California. I got up to about Fillmore. And I said, how come my car is swerving all over the road other than that one, I was tired? 2, I'm in this like snowstorm blizzard, but I don't even realize that it's snowing outside. So my car's like dancing all over the road from the snow. And I'm not aware that my car's dancing because of the snow. So I freaked out, jammed my foot. I had California plates on my car. I jammed on my brakes. I did a few 60s, and I remember hearing a High Patrolman behind me saying, "We'll pick you up out of the ditch." And I didn't manage to get in the ditch, but I flipped my car around every which way, freaking out, fighting this thing, sliding down a hill, half asleep. My foot's asleep. And it was a pretty eerie situation, but I lived through that one. And then I continued on this trip, and I got to Utah, and I left my car with this girl. And I told her, I'm flying out to go to the Midwest, but could you watch my car? And I'm picking it up, and a week later, I'm going to take a train from Denver back to Provo to get my car. She lived in Springville. So she drove me in some very rainy, nasty, rainy, snow, kind of snow rain mix. Nasty night. She drove me to the airport to fly out of Salt Lake. And I got on a plane, and she went back to my car in the parking lot of the Salt Lake City airport. She was mad. I had a flat tire. I didn't have a spare tire. I didn't have a jack. She had to call her dad to run from Springville. And he said by then it was snowing hard. And her poor dad had to go all the way out to Salt Lake Airport to see my bald tire that I had blown. I didn't know nothing was going on. I'm having a good time in the Midwest. I come back about a week later, and her dad really proceeded to tell me that maybe I ought to get 3 more tires because all my tires were bald. Maybe I should buy a jack and get a spare tire and all the hardships that were caused, but it all worked out, I guess. And I'm just taking one more look because I can't. Oh, and then my friend Glenn Nichols, his brother had his house. He lived in Sugar City, Idaho. Remember the Teton Dam era? Well, this had broken, but his house wasn't really downstairs destroyed. But the house, most of his house was upstairs, was okay. But he had to recarpet his house and landscape, and he was in the path of the flooding waters. So we were driving up to Idaho, and Mr. Glenn, he had a lead foot. He was going like I couldn't drive stick shift, but I'd get it up there fine in the fourth, and he was driving like 100 all the way up there, and we had a nice time. We didn't have no problem. But I kept telling him, why don't you let me drive? And he said, oh, I don't sleep when I drive. And we were about northern Idaho, and he had been driving pretty much straight through, and I was just telling him, don't go to never mind sleep. He's already off the road sideways, stalled the car, just missed these boulders by inches, huge boulders, and the car stalled. And I said, Glenn, I was just going to tell you, don't go to sleep, but I guess you closed your eyes, you took the car off the road, and you did fall asleep. And he said, yeah, I guess I did. Had I not been there, he probably would have died, you know, but lucky for me that I saw him, so. But And then coming home on this trip, he's like, we're in Salt Lake, and he wants to make it back to LA in 9 hours or less. So he's going 120, and this is when I-5 wasn't even completed. So you had to go through like little hick towns, and he was ripping through these little towns at 60, 70, and 45 mile zone. And he on a freeway, he going 120 plus, you know, in his Mazda, just screeching it. I'm gonna make it by 8 o'clock in LA, and we're at noon in Salt Lake. You know, it's like, oh man, you wanna make a church meeting over there for something, you know, and he said he had a hot date or something. He had to be there, so he said, I'm gonna make it. So we're flying down the road, and we get down about St. George, and he goes, oh, I'm gonna get a ticket. Woo! Cop comes up. Hey, judge isn't too happy with you guys. He was arrested, and I had to call him up at a trailer 2 exits down. He said he'll be waiting for you. I had to wake him up. He says, by the way, he says, I hope you got cash, MasterCharge, or Visa, or you're going to jail. He said, you got to cover the fine. We're not going to let you go into the state of Nevada till you pay the fine in Utah. He says, he's the judge and the jury in the trial. So good luck. So we got off the next exit. Sure enough, there's an old house trailer, and there's the judge, you know, had his big radio thing. He got all his... He says, you boys waking me up, and I'm not happy about it. He says, how fast you going? I don't know about it. Yeah, the officer said he's going to write you up about 90. He said, you know, well, how are you going to pay for it? And Glenn pulled out his Visa card and charged his ticket. Then he says, oh, that cop's still waiting for you down there. He said, the last miles to the Nevada border, you will go 55 at the time, because that was the speed limit. He said, you will go 55. So... sure enough, we got to Nevada, and then my buddy opened it up again, and we got back to California. And then just in kind of a closing, one of the ugliest trips I've ever done was with my son, Mike. We were supposed to drive we moved up to Vancouver, Washington, and we lived in Southern California. And about a week, and we were supposed to take a Honda Accord with us. I was supposed to drive with my son, and it was all arranged with our final stuff to go to Vancouver. About a week before we were to go to Vancouver, my son got in a pretty big wreck with the Honda. Messed up the alignment, knocked the side mirror off. Car really wasn't safe to drive as it was, but he said, you know what, we're gonna try to fix it in Vancouver. We had no way to get up there. So we started driving up there. And my son, he's got a lead foot, young teenager, you know. He was like moving along 75, 80 miles an hour, whatever he could go, 100 maybe. I was asleep most of the time while he was driving, but got up about Mount Shasta, and I got out to put in some gas, as I normally, you know, as you have to do. I looked at the front tire, and I said, son, what do you see? Oh, no rubber, bunch of steel. And I said, does that look good to you? I said, look, man. I said, look, there's no place to stop here. I said, yeah, we'll make it all the way to Portland, Oregon, Vancouver. I said, no, we won't. But I said, you know what? Let's try to make it further down the road. We're in the middle of the mountains, and there ain't nowhere to go. So my son, I said, do you mind going about 60, 65 and taking it easy? I said, no, never mind the 80 and 90, because I said, this tire can blow anytime. It should have been gone, but it isn't. So we got about Medford, Oregon, and, you know, we'd rolled into that swab in Medford, Oregon, and the guy said, hey, you know what, I got a cheap spare to throw on there. He said, it probably won't even get you to Vancouver, because he said, you know what, your alignment's shot. You ain't even got any alignment, basically. And I said, okay. So we had good weather, unfortunately no snow. We got up there, and about a little bit out of Portland. It starts pouring down rain, and you know how Oregon, the roads in I-5, they wind up and down. I'm sailing along about 65, 70 miles an hour, and I got a sharp turn. I go to make the turn, and my steering wheel locks up, and I just slide, kind of semi-slide somehow across this hairpin curve road, pulling all my weight, trying to get the thing to unlock because the wheels were turned one way, and I could not pull them back easily. And the tire was just wild, ready to come off my car, and it was a nightmare. Anyway, we couldn't even drive over about 15, 20 miles an hour. We're on the shoulder. I don't have my side mirror. And you got all these reckless driveways on a holiday trying to get back into Portland, rushing back. It's like a Friday, like a Sunday night, I guess it was. And they're all trying to get back to work Monday morning. And it was just pouring down rain, no visibility. And we hobbled into Vancouver eventually. And we didn't get hurt or harmed. Just in basic general conclusion, as you can see, I managed to talk to a whole lot of people all over the world. I did a lot of different things with people. And as I was telling these stories, people just were telling me over and again, you got to make something happen with this stuff. He said, you're crazy, brother, man. I mean, most people are like prepared for vacations. They really don't take too many chances at work. They don't drive unsafe vehicles for the most part. And they said, your experiences are just mind-boggling. How do you get by with that? And all your jobs, I think every one of them, they should have fired you. And I said, well, I'm a nice guy, and I show up for work for the most part. I have a sense of humor. I said, I usually go the extra miles for employers. But he said, you got by with more stuff than anybody I've ever known in life, with all these unique experiences. And I have to agree that sometimes I was laughing and crying, and emotions were up and down. And as I went through these experiences, sometimes I wonder if I was literally going to leave the earth. I mean, falling in a manhole and driving a reckless car with my son, and driving crazy, and weather problems. It seems like I have my share of problems in life. But, you know, I hope that it happens and everybody can lighten up, laugh at their lives and the experiences that we have, good, bad, or indifferent, and find out what the real purpose of life really is. Search it out. And I hope that each of us can figure out why we're on the earth and where we came from. And hopefully all our experiences will mean something in the hereafter, one way or the other. And I hope we all can have a sense of humor and laugh. I mean, times are tough right now, you know? Let's face it. Could go to $10 a gallon of gas. People are losing their homes. All kinds of things are going on. And we need to laugh. We need to be happy. We need to remember all the things we experience in life, and with our kids, with our families, where it travels, how we treat others, how they treated us. Life's an experience. And so whoever sees this, I'm hoping something will happen with it, and it'll go somewhere. And I don't know. I guess somebody said I should have been a comedian. I should have been a weatherman, an airline pilot. That almost happened once too. I have, I guess, a story about. I thought I was going to Vietnam, and I was happy to go. Can you believe it? I was going to be drafted. I was 58 in the lottery. I don't know if you saw the movie Alice's Restaurant, but there's a draft board scene where people are borrowing by urine. Anyway, I was thrown in L.A. with the L.A. and Vegas people, and the sergeant pretty much wrapped me up, and I had a doctor who wrote a letter. I was past the Air Force test to be a pilot, and I was going to Nam. I was all signed up. That was the way it was going to be, and I thought that was my life. I was going to go with it. But anyway, a doctor wrote a 4-page letter in the Air Force, said I can't be on combat duty. You must take phenobarbital and Dilantin 3 times a day. Have 8 hours sleep, can't fly in non-pressurized duty, and can't be in combat. Anyway, whatever he wrote worked. I ended up being 4F. And I got my draft card to prove that even. And then what happens? A church sends me to the Philippines, which is about more dangerous than Vietnam when you think about it almost. Other than I didn't get shot or killed or something, but and it was under martial law then too, so I was a little bit good for that part. I didn't see a lot of guns, but life goes on. Where does it take us? Man. Anyway, thank you for your time. Thanks for listening and watching, and hopefully, if we do this right, I'd like to say done right, I think this is going to be a fantastic movie, and I really believe it'll be more than a blockbuster. Because I think people that are from Mexico, they're going to say, hey, there's a coyote. And people are in Australia, they're going to say the guy didn't even understand our English. Or he was in Central America, or he's in the Philippines. He was all over America. And people like trains. I didn't even tell you my train stories. My uncle was an engineer. I got dusted one time in a train car. I was like 9, 10 years old. And anyway, I was walking between cars, and I got about 100 pounds of soap thrown at me in water. Great guy. So I have a lot of interest that a lot of people have, and I think it shows in America when they're putting in these commuter rail systems. Here where I live inside, we just got the front runner. People are riding the train by the hundreds. It's one to save gas, but I think it's a thrill. I mean, you know, hiking, camping, all this stuff. Having jobs and having funny experiences. Escaping, you know, the police maybe in some cases some people have problems with. It's just, life's funny. We got to make it funny. We got to look at our experiences and grow from them and learn from them too. But anyway, I sincerely hope that you get the drift of this could happen only to you, and I guess it did happen to me. Some of these things probably only could happen to me, but things can only happen to you too. And I'll leave that, and that's all I got to say for tonight. Thank you again, and have a good evening. Adios.
You didn't tell us the baseball story.
Oh.
So we can just take that, just put the hat back on.
Oh yeah, I missed the two, huh?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I told him about Angel Stadium, right, with the Cokes.
No. Did you?
I think I did.
I don't think you did.
I think I told him about the Angel Stadium. One of my first jobs, I did.
Did you talk about the ball?
No.
Oh, okay.
I gotta talk about 2 inches with baseball, so I can do that now and throw it in.
Yeah, just do it.
I guess we had no choice. God, I was actually thinking about skipping, but I think I should tell it. I got the
Well,
baseball.
you brought it, so.
Yeah, I'm not about the ball. I mean, I should hold it up now or later.
Bonus features.
Bonus feature. There we go.
So what we'll do is we'll just record this whole thing, and then when you're done, I'll just get a tighter shot of it, and you'll just hold it up.
Oh, okay.
So you can hold it in front of you, just when we afterwards just record.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, this is good for the kids. One of the things that I like, you know, Americans are interested in going to baseball games, and everybody wants to get a baseball in the game. Or like what I do is I went out early to batting practice. I make it a point to to go out in the outfield bleachers or wherever I'm sitting, and I always bring my baseball mitt with me. And what I do is I usually take my baseball mitt, batting practice, and I went 13 times, and 12 out of 13 I end up with a baseball. But what I do is I'm taller, and I'm an adult, unfortunately, I'm going to skip that part, but I'm an adult, and I usually can stand up and grab a baseball, and then I give my baseball mitt to whatever kid doesn't have a mitt around me. I say, now it's your turn. I only want one baseball game, and I give my mitt, and I say, when batting practice over, give me my mitt back. And I think it works well. Kids are excited. And a couple times kids actually got a baseball, so I feel good about that. You know, I don't want to hog all the balls, so I like to let the kids have a chance. Actually, baseball's for the children as much as adults, I guess. But one time I was at Dodger Stadium, and somebody hit a long ball, bounced off the warning track on a one-hopper, and it nailed me right in the forehead. And I got proof of it. I got a baseball with a red, you can see where the red is off the warning track. It actually nailed me in the head and bounced back on the field. So I told the player, I don't remember what his name was, but I said, hey, that's my baseball, man. It hit me, and I got every right for it. He says, that's kind of the rules. So he told the kid, no, hey, you all want baseball. This guy gets it. He's got, look at his head. He's got a big old welt on his head. It's red, and the guy was making fun of me. The player goes, you didn't get about a baseball, did you? I go, well, you know, kid Sherlock, it bounced up, it did nail me. That's why I want the baseball. He said, you know what, you deserve it, bro. I just hope you don't have a migraine headache or something. He said, I can't believe it. You know, I felt kind of dorky, but, you know, I got the ball, and it was all good. Another time, I took my son to Comiskey Park in Chicago, the new ball stadium. The sun was in my eyes, and Frank Thomas was up, and Frank Thomas hit this screeching line drive out the deep center field. Right at my face level, literally going to hit me right in the eyes before. I didn't even see it hit the bat. The sun was in my eyes, and I was standing with my glove kind of down too low. And if this kid would have took a hat right in front of me, I might not have a face left, because this thing was going to rip me. It would have shattered all my teeth and me. And My kid says, "What are you doing? What are you doing? The ball was right there. You could have had it with your mitt." And I said, "You know what? I didn't even see that baseball. It was coming so fast, and the sun was in my eyes." I can share a real quick experience. Same night, my son. I mean, Chicago's kind of a rough neighborhood, and it's like overtime game or extra inning games, I should say, extra innings. And we were there a long time, and my son decided, I want to go one side of the ballpark. I said, I'll go there. We're collecting autographs of players. And I don't know. I should let my son on 10 in Chicago, but he's running around this ballpark, and I'm running around the other side. And I'm sitting on the lawn, and Tim Raines comes walking by, and hey, Tim, how you doing? He said, I feel like talking. I said, no, man, you're one of the ball players, pretty good player. Actually got a lot of speed and everything, pretty famous. So we talked about everything but baseball. We sat on the lawn for about an hour and a half. And I realized, hey, Tim, I got to go. I said, I think my son's running around here now. Everybody's leaving. I think I don't know I'm going to ever find him, man. I'm going to be in big trouble with my wife if I show up without a son. So I said, Tim, nice talking with you, and went around and I found my son, and that was it. But.
So with your right hand, show me the ball.
Yeah, I want to show you the National League first.
Now just hold it right in front of me. You don't have to. Let me just get a shot of this.
You see the National League on it?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, make it a fanny.
Cool, and then show me the dot. So that dot is from.
The warning track. Bounced off the red clay warning track.
Got it.
Okay.
Cool.
And shop steward badge. You can get that later.
Yeah, we can take a picture of that or scan that.
And then this illustrious piece of paper. This is what happened in United.
Oh, hold it back there. I can't.
Oh, you want to do it now?
No, I just want to. I'll just might as well get it on camera just in case. So it says 10 days. What does it say there?
This is the accident report. I'm going to show you which one I did in a minute. You guys see mine. I'm going to have my figures. It's going to show my actual figures, so okay. I'm going to show it to you. Okay, hang on. No, that one's... No, that's not the one, darn it. I need white out. Oh, well, I didn't circle the wrong one.
Oh.
That's okay. I'll just put mine.
Yeah.
It's probably small, but 7 extensively damaged too. That's what it says. I got a little, it says mine extensively damaged 737.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
Now hang on, that's not the end of it. Then. Got the back of my head. I hope this is going to be clear.
Well, I'll get it.
Lost revenue, $153,000. $20,000 total part, $22,000. Total cost, $195,836.
Dad.
That didn't include the lawsuits either. Did you get it? No. The lawsuits were more than that. Oh. Nope, I'm not done yet. Now another $65,000 truck, $6,000 to fix the truck. Here's a picture of the truck, kind of.
Oh man.
This is not a good night, huh? And oh,
I'll have to scan that tomorrow if we have it.
yeah. I want- This one hit by a lab truck, crash. Must have get all the stuff we did. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you'll have to get a copy of this. This is what they did to me. There's a little explanation on the back too. Oh my goodness. I forgot to tell about this Australian bushfire, but maybe we don't need to do that. It's okay.
Causing extensive damages to the aircraft.
I was in training. My foot slipped off the accelerator. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Read the back part of that. Thank you for cooperating.